Marcus had just backed his fishing boat down near the community dock when the shouting started. He hadn't even unhooked the trailer yet when a woman came storming down the path, phone in her hand, her little dog tugging at the leash. "You can't leave that boat here," she barked, pointing at the dock like she owned it. "HOA rules don't allow it. Move it now before I have you fined." Marcus stayed calm. This wasn't the first time someone had confronted him like this. "Ma'am, I'm not leaving it here. I'm just getting ready to launch. I live in this community, and I've used this dock many times." But Karen wasn't interested in explanations. Her tone got sharper. "No, you don't. I know everyone who lives on this lake, and I've never seen you before. You're trespassing, and I'm calling the HOA president right now." Marcus sighed. He could have ended it right there by showing her the paperwork in his glove box. But the truth was, this woman didn't want answers. She wanted control. And he wasn't about to hand that over so easily. Karen dialed furiously on her phone while pacing back and forth. Her dog yapped at Marcus's boots as if backing up her claims. "Yes, hello," she said loudly into the phone, making sure Marcus could hear. "This is Karen. There's a man down here with a boat, and he's refusing to leave the dock. He's not a resident. I need someone from the HOA to come immediately." Marcus kept busy, untying straps from the trailer. He didn't rise to the bait. He knew this game. People like Karen thrived on reaction, on conflict. The quieter he stayed, the angrier she'd get, and the more foolish she'd look later. Within minutes, a man in a collared shirt appeared, hurrying down the path. He looked weary, like this wasn't the first time he'd been summoned for one of Karen's complaints. The HOA badge on his shirt pocket confirmed it. "Karen," he sighed. "What's going on now?" Karen pointed dramatically at Marcus. That boat! He doesn't live here, he's trespassing, and he refuses to leave." The HOA rep turned to Marcus, measuring him carefully. "Sir, do you live in this community?" "Yes," Marcus replied calmly. "For years." Karen cut in before the rep could say more. "That's a lie. I know every homeowner around this lake. He doesn't belong. Ask him for his address. I guarantee he can't give it." The rep rubbed his temples. "Karen, we don't go around demanding addresses from residents. Please." Then to Marcus. "Do you have any documentation, sir, just to settle this quickly?" Marcus paused, considering. He could hand over the documents now, but Karen had already pushed too far. Maybe it was time to let her dig herself deeper. "I'll show you paperwork," Marcus said evenly, "but not yet. Let's see what she does first." Karen gasped, scandalized. "He's refusing to comply. See, this is exactly why we have HOA rules. People like this think they can do whatever they want." She whipped her phone out again. "Fine. If you won't handle it, I'll call the sheriff. He'll have to move then." The HOA rep groaned. "Karen, please, that's unnecessary." But she was already on the line with 911, making her voice as dramatic as possible. "Yes, hello? I need officers at the community lake. There's a man here trespassing and I feel threatened." Marcus clenched his jaw. That last part, "I feel threatened," was the oldest trick in the book. She wanted to escalate this into something bigger. When the deputies arrived, Karen ran to greet them, tears practically welling up on cue. "Thank goodness you're here. He's been harassing me, refusing to leave the dock. He doesn't even live here. Please, make him go." The officers turned to Marcus. "Sir, what's your name?" "Marcus." "Do you live here, Marcus?" "Yes." Karen shrieked. "He's lying." Marcus finally walked to his truck and pulled a leather folder from the glove box. He held it calmly, waiting until both deputies and the HOA rep were watching. Then he handed it over. The deputy flipped the deed open. His eyebrows shot up. He read it again, slowly, as if making sure he wasn't mistaken. He handed it to the HOA rep, whose face went pale. Karen snatched it from his hands. "What is this supposed to be?" Her voice faltered as her eyes locked on the words. It wasn't just proof Marcus lived there. The deed clearly showed his ownership of the dock, the land surrounding it, and the entire lake itself. Marcus finally spoke, his voice steady. "This isn't just my property. This whole lake, every inch of it, belongs to me. My grandfather built it. My family has owned it for generations. And the dock you're standing on? I had it rebuilt with my own money." Karen's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The HOA rep coughed awkwardly. "Well, that settles it. Marcus has every right to be here." Marcus locked eyes with Karen. "So next time you decide to call the cops on someone, maybe ask yourself if you even know what you're talking about." The deputies gave Karen a long look before walking back to their car. The HOA rep muttered something about misunderstandings and left quickly. That left only Marcus, his boat, and Karen, still standing there with her dog trembling in her arms. Marcus smiled faintly. "Have a nice day, ma'am." Then he pushed his boat into the water and climbed in, leaving her speechless on the dock. Karen didn't leave. Even after the deputies drove off and the HOA rep retreated back up the path, she stood frozen on the dock, staring at the paperwork Marcus had shown. Her dog squirmed in her arms, whining, but she barely noticed. Finally, she snapped back to life. "You must have forged this. There's no way the entire lake belongs to you. That's ridiculous." Marcus chuckled softly as he adjusted the fishing rods in his boat. "You're welcome to check county records if you don't believe me. It's all public information. My grandfather built this lake. My family kept it open so the community could enjoy it. And now I own it. Simple as that." Karen stomped her foot like a child. "Well, if you own it, then you should have informed the HOA. You can't just surprise people like this. We have rules." Marcus leaned on the side of his boat. "The funny thing about owning property is, HOA rules don't apply to me here. You don't get to decide what I do on my own lake." Karen's face turned red. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then spun around and stormed back up the path. Her heels clicked furiously on the wooden boards of the dock as she muttered about calling an emergency meeting. Marcus shook his head and pushed off into the water. He knew this wasn't the last he'd hear from her. People like Karen didn't back down after being embarrassed. They doubled down. Sure enough, the very next evening, a letter appeared in Marcus's mailbox. It was from the HOA board, demanding that he attend a meeting to discuss his unauthorized use of community resources. Marcus almost laughed when he read it. Unauthorized? He owned the lake. But instead of ignoring the letter, he decided to show up. It was time to make things crystal clear. The meeting hall was packed. Word had spread fast, and nearly every board member and several curious residents had shown up. Karen sat near the front, smug and self-satisfied, her stack of printed HOA rules in her lap like a holy book. The board president, a man in a gray suit, cleared his throat. "We've had complaints that Mr. Marcus here has been using the dock and lake facilities without HOA approval. Karen, you filed the complaint, correct?" Karen shot to her feet. "Yes, he was out there with some rusty old boat, refusing to identify himself, refusing to follow rules. He even called the deputies on me when I tried to enforce them." A few people in the crowd exchanged skeptical looks. They had heard how things really went down. Marcus waited patiently until the president turned to him. "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Marcus stood slowly, reaching into his folder again. He placed copies of the deed on the table for everyone to see. "This lake isn't yours to regulate. My family built it decades ago. We kept it open so everyone could enjoy it. But legally, it has always belonged to us. The dock, too. I pay the taxes on this property, not the HOA. So when Karen tried to stop me from using my own lake, she was the one trespassing, not me." The room went quiet. The president flipped through the papers, his expression stiffening. This appears to be correct." Karen jumped up again. That's not fair. If he owns the lake, then he should be responsible for maintaining it, cleaning it, repairing the dock. Why should the HOA pay for something that isn't even ours? Marcus didn't flinch. You don't pay for it. Not a dime. I handle all the upkeep myself. The reason you've had a beautiful lake to look at every day is because my family made sure of it. You're welcome. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room. Some of the board members looked embarrassed. A few residents even nodded approvingly. Karen wasn't done. Well, then I demand that the HOA restrict access to residents only. If he owns the lake, he could start charging us fees or banning people. This is unacceptable. Marcus let her rant before answering. I've never banned anyone. I've never charged a single fee. I let everyone here use the lake because that's what my grandfather wanted. But I'll be honest, after what happened yesterday, I'm reconsidering some things. If I wanted to, I could fence off this lake tomorrow, and there's nothing the HOA could do to stop me. That landed like a hammer. Even the board president sat back, stunned. The murmurs grew louder. People turned to glare at Karen. She shrank slightly in her chair, but still tried to keep her chin up. One elderly woman stood from the back. My husband and I walk the trail around the lake every morning. We've always been grateful to have it. Marcus, we didn't know your family owned it, but thank you for letting us enjoy it all these years. A few others clapped lightly. Karen's face turned crimson. The president cleared his throat again. It seems there's been a misunderstanding. Marcus, on behalf of the board, we apologize for the confusion. And thank you for your generosity. Karen leapt up. You can't just let him walk all over us. We need to establish rules. The president cut her off. Enough, Karen. You've caused enough trouble this week. Sit down. The meeting ended soon after, but Karen wasn't finished. That night, Marcus noticed her standing at the edge of his driveway, snapping photos of his truck and boat with her phone. She muttered something about code violations and stormed off when you stepped outside. It became a pattern. For the next few days, Karen seemed obsessed. She filed complaints about everything she could think of. Marcus's grass was too long, his boat trailer was parked wrong, even the color of his mailbox. Each time, Marcus calmly reminded the board that his property wasn't under HOA jurisdiction. Each time, Karen grew more frustrated. One evening, as Marcus was cleaning his boat, Karen marched right up to his yard, phone recording in hand. I'm documenting this, she declared. When the HOA finally takes you down, you'll have no excuse. Marcus looked at her steadily. You've already lost, Karen. The more you fight, the worse it looks for you. The HOA can't touch me, and you know it. She jabbed her finger at him. You may own the lake, but you'll never fit in here. People like you never do. Marcus felt the sting of those words, but he didn't let it show. Instead, he smiled faintly. Maybe, but people like me build things. People like you just complain about them. Karen's face twisted in anger. She spun on her heel and stormed away again. Days passed, but Karen didn't slow down. If anything, she grew more desperate. She sent long, angry emails to the HOA board demanding Marcus be fined, banned, or dealt with. She called county officials only to learn that Marcus's paperwork was solid and his ownership couldn't be challenged. She even tried to gather signatures from neighbors to force him out. But the neighborhood had changed since that first scene on the dock. People had seen the truth. They'd learned Marcus wasn't just a resident. He was the reason they had a lake at all. Quietly, one by one, they began siding with him. Some dropped by his driveway to thank him. Others waved when he passed in his truck. And every time Karen tried to stir up outrage, fewer people listened. One Saturday morning, Marcus was prepping his boat when a group of neighbors stopped by. The elderly woman who had spoken up at the meeting stood at the front. Marcus, she said warmly, we've been talking. We're planning a community cleanup day by the lake trail. Would you mind if we helped? Just to show our appreciation." Marcus smiled. Of course, my grandfather would have liked that. Karen, who had been lurking nearby with her phone, stormed over. "What is this? You can't organize events without HOA approval." The neighbors looked at her, unimpressed. One man shook his head. "Karen, this isn't HOA business. This is Marcus's lake. He doesn't need your permission." The color drained from Karen's face. For once, nobody backed her up. She stammered, but the group simply turned their backs on her and began chatting with Marcus about cleanup plans. That was the moment she realized she was losing control. But instead of backing down, she tried one last gamble. The following week, Marcus received a formal notice from the HOA board. Karen had filed a motion to restrict all lake access until ownership disputes were resolved. The board, weary of her constant pressure, agreed to hold one final hearing. Marcus showed up with his folder again, calm as always. The board president looked apologetic. "Marcus, we know your ownership is valid, but Karen insists we revisit the issue. So please, just present your case one more time, and hopefully this will put it to rest." Karen sat smugly in the front row, her stack of rulebooks by her side. This time, she whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear, "He won't be able to talk his way out of it." Marcus walked to the table and placed the deed down. "I'll make this simple. This is my property. It always has been. The taxes, the upkeep, the improvements, all handled by me. The HOA has no jurisdiction here. That's the legal reality." He paused, scanning the room. "But here's the thing. I didn't come to fight. I came to remind you why my family left this lake open. We wanted everyone to enjoy it. That's what I still want. But if this board keeps trying to claim ownership that isn't theirs, I can shut the gate tomorrow and close it off to all of you." A heavy silence filled the hall. Then Marcus added, his voice firm, "And if that happens, you'll know exactly who to thank. The same person who called the police on me for launching a boat on my own lake." All eyes turned to Karen. She froze, her mouth open, her face bright red. The president cleared his throat. "We've heard enough. Marcus is the rightful owner. The board will no longer entertain complaints on this matter. And Karen, your behavior has been disruptive and harmful to the community. Effective immediately, you are removed from your position on the Rules Committee. Consider this your final warning." Gasps filled the room. Karen's jaw dropped. "You can't do this to me. I am this HOA." But nobody came to her defense. People were tired of her antics. She sputtered and fumed, but in the end, she had no power left. After the meeting, several neighbors shook Marcus's hand. "You handled that better than any of us could have," one said. She finally got what she deserved. As Marcus walked out into the evening air, he saw Karen standing by her car, arms crossed, still fuming. He paused for a moment. "Karen," he said evenly, "you tried to take me down with lies and rules that didn't apply. But in the end, you only managed to take yourself down. Maybe next time, think before you attack someone you don't understand." She turned away, refusing to answer. Her little dog barked as if trying to cover the silence. Marcus got into his truck, hitched up his boat, and drove toward the lake. The water shimmered under the sunset, calm and endless. As he eased the boat into the water, a couple of neighbors waved from the shore, smiling. For Marcus, it wasn't about proving a point anymore. It was about reclaiming his peace. The lake was his, not just on paper, but in spirit. And no matter how loud Karen screamed, she couldn't take that away. The community had seen the truth. The HOA had backed down. And Karen? She was left with nothing but her own bitterness, watching from the sidelines as Marcus enjoyed the lake she once tried to ban him from. Justice had been served, not with shouting, but with patience, proof, and the quiet power of ownership. And as Marcus cast his line into the water, the ripples spread across the surface. A reminder that some battles don't need anger to be won. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply living free while the people who tried to stop you drown in their own pride.